OMG, baby, tell him.
Hey there, welcome to Powered by Backers. I am here. It's another Olympian day. I am joined by my special guest here, Richard Rock. Richard, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Justin. Excuse me. For having me.
Perfect.
This is a first for me, by the way.
First for you on this show or any show?
Or any show.
Yeah? Okay, well, there you go. So we'll, I was going to say something there, but probably inappropriate. But, so yes, awesome. So I'll do a quick little bio or intro here. So Richard, you are a father of two beautiful university-age kids, a son, a brother, and an uncle. You're a Woburn Collegiate Wildcat, Scarborough in the house. I went to Newman, Cardinal Newman, right?
I know Newman, yes.
Yeah. And you are a Saluki, so Southern Illinois University grad. 1976 Canadian Olympian. In what sport?
I was a track and field athletic.
Field.
Actually, just this last week, we celebrated the 44th year anniversary of the Montreal Olympics.
Perfect. And so you're on the national junior long jump, or you are the national junior long jump record holder, 5-time national champion, NCAA All-American, World Olympic Association member, and a member of the Canadian Sales Professional Association. And then I guess we're transitioning from Olympics to sales. You've sold over $40 million in gross revenue during your network sales career. Twice a member of the Super Achievers Club with Lucent Technologies. Richard, thank you very much for joining me. And now you are the president and CEO of Rock Ltc.
Yes, that's right.
And so let's jump into, I'm going to go right to where everyone's probably excited to talk about 1976 Montreal Olympics. Were you part? Was there a procession? Tell me a little bit about that experience. Was there, the same sort of thing that we see today on TV, or how did it all go?
I'll probably give away my age because I was 18 years old.
What? So let's just say I was born in 78.
Well, there you
so
go.
I was -2. But, so there you go. But that's fine.
I was very, very, very fortunate to be selected as an athlete to represent Canada in the first Olympic Games on Canadian soil. Right.
There you go.
Obviously, we had the Vancouver Olympics, we had the Calgary Olympics, both Winter Olympics, by the way. But I attended Woburn Collegiate. I had a very good coach and a gentleman named Walter Kostrick, of Vladimir Kostrick, God rest his soul. And Walter and I basically worked together to the point where I received a scholarship at Southern Illinois University. And I went off to university and, just basically worked out. I had some good teammates. In fact, one of them I worked with a gentleman named Phil Robbins, who was from the Bahamas. And Phil and I worked out basically almost on a day-to-day basis, in drills and what have you. And I progressed to the point where I qualified, came up to the Olympic trials, and I won the trials. Now, it's years later that I recognized the impact, or realized the impact of what had happened, because at 18 years old, you really don't, you don't get the sort of the globalized position,
right, the scale,
making Olympic team.
Right.
But I remember one incident when I came back from the trials. I literally won the trials, and I flew back to Toronto with a buddy of mine, Jim McAndrew, who also made the team. And we flew back, literally left Quebec City right after the competition. And I flew back to a graduation party that they were having, for the year, the Tam O'Shanter, Birchmount. And my coach was there, Walter was there, and he goes, "So how did you do?" And I go, "I didn't do too bad, Walter. I won the competition."
Yeah.
And he just looked at me. He goes, "You mean you won the competition?" I said, "I won the competition." He goes, "Ricky," and he's the only one has ever called me Ricky.
Okay.
Richard or Rick or whatever have you. But Ricky, he goes, "Ricky, do you realize that you're going to be in the Olympics in Montreal?" And I looked at him and I go, "You know what, Walter, that's right." And he started tearing up. And then I started tearing up. And literally they're playing like Color My World, one of those standards that at the prom kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
We're both sobbing, and so it really was an impact for him. It was an impact for me. But yeah, it was a great experience. Getting to the games, going through security, which was an eye opener. A couple hours in security to make sure that I was the right guy. I took the bus up to Montreal
From Toronto.
From Toronto.
Yeah.
So it was,
all by yourself, basically, or
exactly. It wasn't
you
the first.
took a Greyhound. You just got on the next bus to Montreal. There you go.
I was sitting next to a lady, and she goes, "What are you gonna do?" Well, I'm in the Olympics. She goes, "Right." Like, she totally didn't believe me at all. She thought
well, how many people are just riding the bus to the Olympics? It's like, oh, I'm a Blue Jay. I'm taking the TTC to the Dome, right? Yeah.
I took the bus to Montreal, and I got there. I go through security. My mom had packed a nice suitcase full of wonderful clothing for me to change up while I was there for those couple of weeks, and lo and behold, they gave me another suitcase full of all sorts of advertising and blah, 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 right? But no, it was a great experience, an absolute eye-opener. Of course, the opening ceremonies, I still get goosebumps when I see that or any other opening ceremonies today, right?
Yeah.
It's just, it was just an overwhelming feeling of patriotism, I guess an end. You've been working for a number of years, and here you are at basically this is the pinnacle of our sport. I mean, beyond the Olympics, there's the World Championships, but no offense to the World Championships, it's dedicated to track and field athletics. But here's a multi-sport event that's seen by billions around the world.
It's one of the biggest sporting events pretty much worldwide, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And by the way, I'm at home.
It's 5 hours from home, basically, right?
I'm my family. I've got pictures where my brother was there. My dad showed up. My mom was working as a nurse, so she unfortunately couldn't make it to the event. But always on a daily basis we're speaking. But you have a 24-hour cafeteria where you're sitting with the best athletes in the planet of all races, colors, languages. It's a phenomenal. I wish everybody could experience an Olympic, not just for the games itself, but for the cultural event that happens around it. You have musicians coming in, the Rolling Stones and the Who or whoever was popular at the time. The Queen's cruising through the village saying hi to everybody, the Prime Minister, whatever have you. And then you're there with idols. I mean, I was there with some of the athletes that I had idolized, growing up to be in that position. So it's a wonderful experience that, it's a life-changing experience. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got professional athletes who do want that gold medal, right? You already made money and you're doing well in your sport, whether it be basketball or tennis or golf. But that representation of your country at an Olympic event and securing a gold medal is also part of the goal for any particular athlete. So it's great. I still have some great friends today that, you have that camaraderie. The World Olympic Association recently came out with a designation, which is the OLY that you see at the end of my name.
Right.
So basically you apply to them. It's much like a certification that you've actually gone through the Olympic process.
Right.
And I do keep in tabs with what's happening with the IOC, good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
Because and I'm connected through Facebook. I'm connected to all sorts of world record holders and past Olympians and stuff. So it's a great motivational, adrenaline type of environment to be in and around those type of athletes. So sort of like you've got the A business people, the A type. Yeah. Well, athletics is the Olympic is the A type. The
for sure.
Who went through the wall to get to a point where they're representing their countries. So it's great. And segue, the discipline that you need to be an athlete, the ability to set goals and attain them, whether it be small steps to get to that goal. I've got to win this event to get to the national championships, then to get to a point where I'm in a position to make an international team. It's very similar to being in sales, right? Yeah. You've got to look at the big picture, and then you've got to shrink it down into small pieces that you can bite and chew off so that you can progress to the point where you're in a position to win, as my coach would always say. Yeah, no, definitely. And we'll definitely try. Just one quick question though. How did you perform at the Olympics? I was 19th in the world at the time.
Awesome.
it's interesting because if I jumped what I jumped like what I called to qualify, I would have been in the finals.
Oh,
right?
okay.
I missed the finals by roughly about 6-7 inches, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But you were there and competed. That's amazing.
Absolutely.
And you were on. So did you continue, like obviously 5-time national champion, a couple other things. Did you, like, that was early on. I think you said you were around like 18, right? So were you 18 when the Olympics happened? You were 18, right?
I was 18. Now,
yeah.
I'm a 57 born. So
yeah. So how did your career kind of, did you continue in the athletics career, or was it sort of like, I've been to the top, I'm done, right? Or how did that play out a little bit?
Justin, it's interesting you asked that because you know, when at 18 you're young, you go, well, you're sort of like you're the deer in the headlights kind of thing. I'm Olympic game. Wow, look at this. So you perform. Now my event, you're getting better as you get older. So the next Olympics was 1980. Right, which was the Moscow Olympics.
I was going to say, yeah, where was that? Okay,
Moscow, and we boycotted those Olympics because the political environment where the Russians went into Afghanistan. Don't get me started with that because Canada's in Afghanistan now. We boycotted, so we did not go to Moscow. We had what's called the Liberty Games, which was held in Philadelphia with all the countries that were not, that did not go to the Olympic Games.
Okay.
I was ready to rock in 1980. I was jumping farther. Almost 27 feet. I'm running faster, 10 point whatever.
Because at that point you're 22, right? Now you're like the pinnacle, or at least getting there, right? You're in your prime, right?
20s. If you're trained well and you take care of your body, you can probably get into 3 Olympics. 4 is a stretch because you're talking a 12-year period. Think of Usain Bolt, right?
Yeah.
So 2008, 2012, 2016, then 2020.
Yeah.
It's a lot to maintain the body.
Well, you're lucky, I think, because you were pretty much at sort of the earliest of a prime, like at 18.
Exactly.
To then be 22. To potentially be 26 at the next, what was the next Olympics?
The next Olympics was 84 in Los Angeles. No, I had won the Olympic trials, but I'll say it's politics. I didn't get to compete in. They didn't take anyone in my event. Again, that was boycotted too. The Russians returned the favor and boycotted the 84 Olympics.
The U.S.
In Los Angeles. And then 88.
By then you're 30, so you're now sort of tail end of your prime, right?
So 88 was my 4th Olympic trials, right? I ended up 3rd. Didn't make it to Korea. The ill-fated Korea.
88. Okay, yeah.
Ben Johnson.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. The Ben Johnson. Yeah. So I remember that. I was 10 years old and around there. I remember the Ben Johnson, the doping, and all that sort of stuff, right? So.
And I will get into that. I mean, obviously, you don't condone that. The environment was different then. It was just different, right?
So you didn't go to 88?
No, I didn't go to 88. I watched it like everybody else. Disappointing, but at the same time, in the back of mind, kind of happy that I wasn't, sort of in that spot because everybody sort of got tainted with the same brush with the doping that was going on. And then 92 was my last hurrah. It was.
You did? Okay,
I did try for. And so you think, so it's 5 Olympics.
That's 34. You would be 34 at that point. There you go. That was like yesterday. No?
So 92 was my last attempt to make the Barcelona team.
Okay.
And I ended up 7th in the competition. It rained, it poured at the Nationals. It was incredibly messy. But it was lovely because my mom and my sister and my girlfriend were in the stands. It was sort of poignant, right? I had family representing there. And that really was the first time they'd even seen me at a national championships compete.
Oh, okay.
Right, because the others were always away, and not everybody can get there, right?
Where were the national champions that year?
That was in Montreal.
They were in Montreal as well that year.
So I started with Montreal in 1976. I ended in Montreal in 1992.
Wow. Yeah. There you go. So sort of the bookends of your career, basically.
So I had a very good athletic career, and I fell into sales. It's a long story. I fell into sales, but I found that sales gave me sort of that that little ramp, that
rush,
adrenaline, that rush that I needed, because no athlete likes to lose, right? You have to have that winning mentality. and sales is about, winning, right? At the end of the day, you want to close the deal that's winning, losing the deal, right?
Yeah.
So the adrenaline of winning a deal or working through the process to where you work with a client and you basically address their issue and you have the solution for their issue, and bam, they sign off and they go, okay, I'm going to go with you, Richard, or with your organization. It's
interesting.
a really great feeling. That's where the boys go out and have a few beers after that, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have my background is sales, business development for, the first 15 years of my career before I got into, which arguably being an entrepreneur, the number one skill is either selling yourself or the business, to investors or to customers or, employees, right? So you're always selling. So let's transition into that. It's interesting. So did you get into I actually have a two-part question. What did you do while you were competing? Were you sort of building your career sort of at the same time? Because I know as an Olympic athlete, it's not a highly paid position, at least unless you get sponsorships and endorsements and you're, Usain Bolt. But for the average, competitor, you're probably working, 9 to 5, or some sort of work, maybe not 9 to 5, but because you got to train and stuff. But, did you get into the sales career sort of while you were in your competing days, or was that more afterwards?
Well, I did a number of odd, jobs. Heck, I worked at AMC plant.
The movie theaters? Oh.
I know there was a car plant. AMC,
car plant. Okay.
Kennedy and Steeles in Brampton. I used to sand cars as they came out of the oven in the summertime, right? Okay. But I did odd jobs. But I got into sales in around I'm gonna say about 80s. So I was at Southern Illinois University. So between 76 and early 80s, I was I was back and forth into the US.
So you were at university,
And at university, I was an accountant clerk. I worked in the accounting.
Right.
Once my scholarship was done, right, because you couldn't work while on scholarship. So, but when I came back to Canada, a friend of ours was our insurance agent, a guy named Harry Paul. I believe that was his name. I was out there, slogging myself in the marketplace, trying to get a job, right? Just out of college, right? I've got a bachelor's of science degree in what's called electronic data processing, which is known as computer science. I'm a programmer.
Okay.
You name it. I've done all the program, COBOL, Mark IV, right? Assembler, coding, all that stuff. I came from programming background. So, it was sort of early days when I came into the marketplace in the early 80s.
That's very early days, right? Yeah.
That's right. I was going to people that were running big IBM system computers, like, room-sized computers, as opposed to
desktops
today.
Yeah.
So
I'm running this on a laptop. Right?
That's right. The multiple MIPS, right? Million instructions per second.
Yeah.
So I was designing and doing compiling on an 8086 chip or an 8088 chip. Okay. And that was the original, right? And then they went to 8286, 8386, and then Intel, right, came up with a new name because there was another company came out that's called AMD.
Yeah, AMD.
Chip. So you had Intel and AMD in the market. So Intel went to their employees and said, what should we call our new chip? And they called it the Pentium.
Yeah, Pentium.
So that's how you have the Pentium chip to now, right? Yeah. And back then it was only one CPU. Now you have quad CPU chips in the boxes, as you see here now, right? So yeah. I'm
got the technical side covered.
I'm a product of X.25.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody understands that.
You know what? I'll be honest. I'm sort of nodding. A lot of this is over my head.
So I'm very.
I have a phys ed degree.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
So I'm the technical side was not my initial forte.
So I have a technical bent to answer your question in terms
for
of
sure.
My goal was to get into, by this time in my career, I figured I'd be like an MRIS director or something, right? Management Information System Director.
Yeah.
Or CIO, I guess it's called now.
Yeah, the startup.
I figured, 5 years, I'm good. 20 years, I retire, I'm happy, right? But it didn't happen. Harry basically said, you seem to be fairly articulate, you're well dressed, you know how to problem solve. Maybe you should get into sales. And he goes, well, he was with London Life at the time, right? So I said, well, I'm not too sure about insurance sales. It had that image, right?
Right.
Blah, 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 try and sign yourself at the table. But anyway, long story short, he said, well, take a look at my paycheck. Well, that convinced me right there because I'm, need to get a little money in my pocket. So I said, I'll give it a shot. I basically applied to London Life. They sent my profile away to Connecticut or something to make sure that I wasn't some kind of crazy guy. And I started with an office in Rexdale.
Okay.
8 weeks later. And so I started literally selling Freedom 55 door to door in like the Jane and King area, right? Downtown. I had basically King and Dufferin, I should say.
Yeah.
And then I had a little bit uptown Bloor, Jane and Bloor. And then I had the San Romanoway, Jane and Finch. I would canvas the San Romanoway Towers at Jane and Finch each time.
Not a safe place, but they're all sleeping during the day, so you're probably safest.
Well, it was day and night.
Before noon.
That's right. But now, people are a little nervous of going in that neck of the woods, but we used to do that. So I started in insurance sales, the old peel back the onion and all that stuff. So I was door knocking on territory, promoting Freedom 55, RSPs when they were in season, that kind of thing.
So I'm assuming you were successful. Otherwise, this would have been a 3-week stint. Obviously, you were good at it and you excelled at it, and you've made a successful career out of it, correct?
Yeah, it was okay. I was sometimes the sales process is a bit harsh, right? Can I say that?
Right. Of course.
Close the business regardless of customer. I'll say it's more hardened back then. It was really us. It wasn't us versus them, but it was definitely you close the business, right? My manager would, close the business. It wasn't a matter of, I'm going to come back later and I'll talk to them. No, it was like, close the business right now. Like when I'm at the table with you, Justin, I'm closing the business right now. We're not coming back. There's no tomorrow. Now we talk about relationships, building, profiling the different, it's gotten much more.
The hard sale is gone.
Exactly. It's
the hard close. Yeah.
A consultative selling.
Yeah.
Selling now.
Consultative.
That wasn't that back then, right?
No.
I would say I wasn't overly successful. There were some guys who were writing much more business than I. They sort of understood how it worked. Me, I was sort of, I'm still learning how to sell. I held my own in sales campaigns. I left London Life after about a year and a bit. That's 85 to 87. I had met my wife to be in 86.
Okay.
Right. So I was, transitioning. I was moving up to Ottawa. Literally, I was driving up to Ottawa on Friday after a team meeting and coming back, Monday morning for a team meeting. Just going up back and forth to Ottawa. But I left London Life and did a brief stint at Group of Omaha before I found a position in Ottawa with CompuCenter that I could go up to Ottawa and be with my wife to be.
Right.
And that happened late 80s. And, I got married in 93. I got married after my fifth attempt at the Olympic Games. So I was training, working for London Life.
Right.
Omaha. And then even when I went to Ottawa, training for in between there was Commonwealth Games. There was a Pan Am Games. Pacific Games. All those I attended in between that time. So I'm working and training and going off to competition.
Right? So your life was busy, obviously. I mean, you didn't have.
Yeah. I have no regrets. It was one of those. Well, I could have, should have. I completed an athletic career.
Yeah.
92. I'm 35.
Yeah.
So I am done. Then I go start a family. So.
What do you mean nowadays? Guys compete till they're 40, 45. Look at what.
Well, yeah, like
40, like Brady's 40, isn't he 42 almost? Yeah.
Somebody, yeah. Well, Justin Gatlin, your namesake, Gatlin.
There you go. Yeah.
Is approaching 40.
Is he? Okay. He's a sprinter.
Yeah, and he's
U.S. sprinter, right?
Exactly. And he's lucky to be there.
Didn't he just get the world record like maybe a couple of years, like recently, within the past 2-3 years?
It still belongs to Usain. He was running.
Well, maybe it was maybe like a national record or something. I feel like Gatlin got something.
Not
I
yet.
do follow people with my own name. I'm very
not yet. He's come close, but
Was it?
unfortunately, the top U.S. Sprinter was Tyson Gay, unless they stripped him of his.
Okay.
He ran 969,
Okay.
and Bolt ran 958, and basically that was in the same race.
Right.
So Justin has gotten. I think he's been running like 970 was his best.
Right.
But he's not, and that Olympic record. I mean, the world records. It's a. I mean, my best 100-meter time, windy or non, is like 10.12. Right.
Right.
So to see a guy run 958 and literally, you could lap the field in a sense because he's got all that space between him and
he's fast. Yeah. He's it's unreal.
Yeah,
it's unreal. But
so I had an athletic career, and I fell into sales because I wanted to be more on the programming side, the software side of things, but I fell into sales.
So it seems like your career, though, you then got into more of the technical computer side, and then you were in sort of the sales, business development on the technical side, right?
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about that transition. Like, how did you?
Well, the CompuCenter in Ottawa, they sold PCs, IBM PCs, Compaq, all right, these kind of names, HP printers, and software like ACPAC and other softwares of the day.
Right.
So that was, I mean, I met Bill Gates. He came to the Microsoft office in Ottawa. That was the first time I ever met Bill Gates.
That's interesting.
And so
did you actually have a conversation with him, or just kind of on
just a very brief one? I mean, at that time he wasn't, right? It was Microsoft, Bill Gates,
right. He's still big, but not.
In 1988, right?
Yeah.
It was like it was Microsoft was now getting into, because the IBM was still promoting their PC software, PC DOS and things like that, right? Not everybody had transitioned to Windows.
Some Microsoft Windows.
And then we were selling Apple products as well. Commodore PETs. If anybody remembers those, we were selling all sorts of computers. And back then,
I remember my first computer. You probably could answer this if you were in and around that time. So it was probably late 80s, maybe early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And I recall, so I was maybe 10 or 11.
Okay.
And maybe a little younger. So probably like mid 80s. So I was about 9, 10, and you would type all the instructions in.
Yes.
Like just reams of typing, and then it would play some sort of song, or it would do some sort of.
My Lord.
So you're almost like programming the code into the computer. That was literally, and then we had the Tandy 1000 was the next one.
Yeah. Commodore PETs, Tandy 1000s.
That's what I had, was a Tandy 1000.
I had
as a young kid.
I completed an R for the Coast Guard, $500,000 on a T, was it 1800? It was a textured instrument. It was literally this big. I took it home and I basically completed. It wasn't a big laptop like I have now. I've got a Dell in front of me and it's got all these. No, it was just a very basic rudiment. We had WordPerfect. Remember WordPerfect? Yeah,
WordPerfect. Right? That was
that kind of thing. So the technology, as it was evolving, we used those tools. So CompuCenter brought me into the technology space, selling, and it was consumer, direct to consumer and also to businesses. So, people literally walk off the street. It was CompuCenter was right on Bank Street, on a main street. We were literally across from the Treasury building. So I had the PMOs, the Prime Minister's office. As a client, I had the Treasury as a client, and so I would respond to RFPs, RFQs,
for the government contracts, right?
Request for information, request for application, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
and I'd win some of those, right? So that brought me back into technology. I was doing no programming, just selling technology.
So you had to have a bit of the understanding. Underlying to be able to sell it and talk about it, right? Because
and that hasn't changed, right, Justin? You need to understand how the product would benefit the client. So you need to understand how the product works, or what the feature functionality of it. So we can say, okay, and in the 80s portion, networking was now becoming a thing in terms of having computers network together and file sharing and print sharing.
Right.
Was, to convince people, well, I could share a printer, or I can share my files and things like that. That was, that was starting to happen. And you had companies like Novell. I remember Novell, right? They brought out an operating system that was with networking just a little bit later. So all that was evolving. I mean, we're still using 9600 baud modems, right? It was this kind of thing. So we were at the cusp of all that.
Pre-internet.
Pre-internet. There was no.
For anyone out there watching this, everything we've just talked about, the internet did not exist.
No internet.
Every date, this is pre-internet. Yes.
There was no an email. Well, what's that about? You're calling, you're visiting,
right?
You're writing letters or notes, whatever.
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine writing a letter, a sales letter, like literally writing it, mailing it to somebody, and then them like writing you back. Yeah, I'll take it.
That's right.
I can't even imagine that. That would be
my kids can't imagine that. They're like, what? In fact, if I showed them an old Bell 500 phone,
Yeah. Oh yeah. The phone. Yeah. The phones. Like, it looks like.
How do I dial?
Yes. The rotary dial. Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know how to do that. So
I think there's a video out there where they show it like kids, like little 8 or 9 year olds, and they give them these. They're like, "What does this do?" And they're like,
"If you could find one of those and bring it to school,
it's
hilarious, Justin."
Yeah. No, for sure.
They stand around looking at us, so like, "What do we do?"
Yeah. How do you get this to? Do I talk to it? Google. My phone's gonna start going off. Google. How do I get this? Hey Google.
But I was in a sense I was fortunate because I do have that background, or I did have a little bit of technology background from university. I was able to apply it with CompuCenter, and then while I was there, I mean, looking to expand. I mean, it's a nice bed. I call it a bedroom community, but it's a nice place. But it was small.
Yeah.
So I go, well, I need to get back to Toronto, but my girlfriend didn't want to move back to Toronto. I wanted to move back into a larger marketplace because I saw, an opportunity for this thing to grow in terms of computers and networking, whatever have you. And I got an opportunity with Bell and Howell. A lady walked in. I was talking all about technology and networking. She goes, "You got to meet my dad." It turns out that he was the VP of sales for Bell and Howell, right?
Okay.
So initially they were going to open up an office in Ottawa, and then I had a chat with him. He says, "Well, we could use a guy like you back in Toronto." I said, "Well, make me an offer I can't refuse," and back to Toronto I went. So that's how I got back to Toronto, right, from Ottawa. And been here ever since. Worked with Bell and Howell, Lucent, Rogers, all through, basically I've had a 30-year sales career working with, big and small. And
Lucent Technologies, Bell and Howell, Rogers.
I was selling optical gear, right? Yeah. OC40, 48, OC12, OC3. And optical gear is at the very base of your internet from Rogers, going coast to coast. It's going through optical gear. So it's light, right?
Right.
So, people go fiber, it's light, but optical gear is light. So most of your data is being transferred or sent by light.
Right.
Which a lot of people can't even fathom, let alone the fact that they've got a cable attached to their, or a Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi, yeah.
I was like, so how are we getting the internet? It's not plugged into anything, the laptop, right?
Yeah.
So it's coming through the air to your computer.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's some of those concepts are, I mean, if you don't study it, it can be, sort of difficult to just grasp, right? I mean.
Exactly. So my fortune, Justin, is that I've been in around all the technologies, X.25, ATM, asynchronous transfer mode. Then we got into frame relay, right? And now we're into internet. These are all different clouds, as we call them, right? And then of course the mobile network came along, right? We had the big brick phone, and
right.
now we're shrinking it down into this little puppy here called a smartphone.
Yeah.
Which basically is it's literally the way cloud works is it's almost like we're going backwards. We used to have this big computer, and we had little green cathode screens that would get the information from this big computer. Well, right. The big computer now is the cloud. All of our stuff is in the cloud, and we have a little client down here on our phones that
right.
we just talk to the cloud.
Extract the data that you need as needed,
the
right?
application doesn't have to be on the phone. It's in the cloud. So we just We just, just do a request to get the information we need.
Right.
So, I try to, with my clients, I shouldn't say dumb it down, but bring it down to layman's language, because it can get a little verbose, right?
Right.
Start using acronyms, and we love acronyms, and in technology, as soon as something comes out as a new acronym, the cloud, for instance, I'm explaining to executives what the cloud was about. So it's an interesting conversation when you're going, well, the cloud, it's stratus nimbus. It's it's not the cloud.
It's a virtual cloud. It's a
building. It's a building with multiple computers in it.
Yeah.
In a nondescript building somewhere in your.
It's across the street from. There's one actually down on
151 Front Street.
Front Street, yeah, right across from what's the pub?
It's from Jack Astor's.
Loose Moose and Jack Astor's, right there. Yeah.
I know it very well.
No one knows that. That one. So everyone watching, there's a giant building that has no sign on it. Right along on Front Street, right across from Loose Moose, Jack Astor's, whatever,
That houses, everybody's connected in that box.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically the GTA's cloud. That's our cloud, right? Yeah.
That's where we're at. So when you explain to that, so a lot of companies now they're trying to decide whether or not I put what in the cloud versus what I have on-prem, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I've been involved with for 30 years. I mean, I've even when I worked with Rogers, I was doing SEO, right? Search engine optimization, right? We would do this. Rogers had acquired a license with a company called, Yodel out of the US.
Okay.
At 5 years, they promoted SEO. They're competing against, Reach Local and pages and whatever. And I learned about SEO. I learned about how to, set up your website where it would be found on Google on the first page and things like that. So it also come in it from that angle, because one of the challenges we had in computer or in networking was we only talked about the boxes. We never talked about the applications.
Right.
So the beautiful thing about this is that we have multiple applications, else this doesn't do anything.
Right.
It makes a call, right?
Yeah.
But with all the applications, even to do Zoom, WhatsApp, right?
Yeah, it's all there. It's
in your hands, right? Back in the day, you only had one or two applications you could even put on a computer.
Right.
So we've progressed, and think about it. That's 30 years.
Yeah.
So 30 years, where would we be, right? So now we're talking about AI, artificial intelligence. We're talking about
AR,
learning. Right?
Augmented reality.
We're getting into that world of iRobot, right?
Yes.
Where we go, are we going to have a robot who's going to do a male robot?
I'm looking forward to the robot to clean the house and take care and cook the food and take care of the kids.
Right. So I still appreciate a little because at some point if you start not using.
I'm joking obviously.
No. Hey, trust me, there's some value to it, obviously, in certain areas. Like the job that I was doing, for instance, at the AMC, where I was standing one half of the car. There's another guy on the other side standing the other.
That's now a machine.
That's now a machine doing that.
Yeah.
Right. So there's some jobs where you go, that's okay. You can do that, or get the robots to do that.
Yeah.
Others we need to be thinking about, right? And then we get into the autonomous scenario where driving, cars are driving by themselves, a la the Demolition Man, right?
Yeah.
Remember that with
with Sylvester Stallone, right?
Wesley Snipes. So the technology is progressing. I've seen it progress. It's going to continue. There's going to be issues in terms of policy that we have to bring to the table to make sure that it doesn't get out of hand, right?
Yeah.
Because there are scrupulous. Look what's happening with cybersecurity, right? I read today where a telecom company, I think it was South America, Argentina, was hacked, and then the hackers won $7.5 million, right? And of course, it's always in Bitcoin. They're not looking for Argentinian money.
Yeah. So
we're having much more of that because unfortunately it's a quick avenue, all bad or right to dollars. So the more that we put stuff on the Internet of Things, the more we're going to get issues of cybersecurity.
So let's tell us. I mean, so I think that's kind of transitioned into Rock Ltc, right? Like, what is it that you guys do? You work with long-term care. So just everyone that's wondering what LTC stands for, long-term care, right? So you work in the long-term care space.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming around sort of the security, technology, infrastructure for long-term care homes. So those are basically homes that seniors would live in, right? Just for the uninitiated. That's long-term care is where it's a government-run facility. Or well, I guess you would also work with. Would you work with retirement residences or private?
Oh, yeah,
both. Yeah. So it's
the marketplace. Where I got involved with this was about a year and a bit ago. I mean, I was working with a company called TCS Canada, and just doing general network sales, and I've been doing it forever, right? And one of my skills that I bring to any company that I work with is that I do research. I'm a research person. I like to look into an industry, see where it's going. I have the ability to read financial statements. Like I can read a balance sheet for an organization, and I can tell you, Justin, whether it's growing or not, right? And then I talk to the owner like that. Okay, buddy, Justin, I see that you're spending more here and you're not spending enough there. You're losing money over here. You don't have a proper prior client profile. That's the kind of thing I can do for an organization. And you need to do that now because you have to add value, right? Coming in saying, well, I've got the widget that can help you do bad. Yeah. They're going, well, that's wonderful. So does the other.
So does every other and everyone on their uncle, right?
How does your widget truly differentiate differentiate my company in the marketplace, and how does it really truly help me on the bottom line or the top line?
Right.
So when I was looking into first of all, I was looking into the healthcare space, and TCS wasn't there. I mean, I hate to knock on their door, but they weren't involved, and they're a networking company. I'm like, well, I'm walking to hospitals, and they need a new Wi-Fi system, or they're using an old phone system, right, that they've had 100 years now, or whatever it is. I won't call any names, but they're using the same phone system. It hasn't upgraded at all because one, they haven't found the money or the time, or it just gets down.
No one's presented probably the solution to them, right?
Exactly. Wi-Fi systems, right? People are coming into the hospital. They want to bring their iPad. They want to bring their cell phone. Remember the days when you couldn't make a cell phone call
in a hospital? I kind of do, yeah. So there was something to do with the radiation, or the.
You had to leave your cell phone out there. It would interfere with the. Now you can, right? Because if they have a proper firewall and things like that, you can get that done. But again, technology is moving along. Machine learning and AI are offering softwares that could not only register people from home, so when you get to the hospital, you're ready to go, right? Right. You don't have to sit in emergency. If you could hit 911, they get everything, information, pull your file, bam, send it to that hospital. Boom, when you get there, you're in to go. As opposed to I've got to sit for
45 minutes at each step of the way, kind of thing.
My mom got injured in an accident a couple of years back, and we were literally with the paramedic sitting in the hall for 4 hours.
Wow.
And I'm talking with him. I'm like, can we not? He goes, if you can get that tech information into my vehicle before I get here. And I'm like, well, why is that not being done?
Yeah.
Come on, like you got cars now that they have Wi-Fi. Well, your paramedics should have Wi-Fi, so they could be able to transfer the information that they're getting, right? Well, not only Wi-Fi, cellular, to the hospital on their way. And I'm sure it's happening. I mean, I'm probably speaking. The technology is out there, but it's not everywhere.
It's not prevalent in everyday life.
And I know there's a privacy thing, but if I'm in an emergency situation and I'm going to a point where somebody can assist me, I want when I get there.
Right.
That they're not like, well, what's this about?
I think there's a lot of disconnection. Like I worked in the healthcare space a little bit too. The mobility shop, we had a home healthcare equipment store. I worked with Osler in the healthcare hospital organization. So Brampton Civic, Etobicoke General, more on the finance business development side. But the idea there was like looking for, my role specifically was looking at business opportunities to generate revenue, but there were other people that were looking at cost saving or other types of technologies or things to implement. I think there's an issue there, obviously, where new technologies, they're not willing to kind of be the first into it, right? They're a little skeptical, or there's a lot of skepticism. The way that, especially Canadian, I'm assuming US would be different, but because it's publicly funded, the whole budgeting system to try to budget certain things into next year's budget, and it might have changed, but I remember they have this sort of like system where they're literally budgeting today for they're doing like the next year's numbers based on last year's numbers. It's so there's really no way to like wiggle room to add things in there. It's so I'm sure that could be very difficult. I'm sure you come across a lot of that stuff, especially dealing with publicly funded LTCs.
Very. You need, first of all, you need patience. Right?
Yes.
I think you're gonna.
It's a long sales cycle.
You're salivating. I got this hospital. They got $300 billion budget. I'm gonna get in there and woo.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on a cottage soon.
That budget's been allocated for about 5 years, probably. Yeah.
They're gonna go. And why do we need widget one? Right?
Yeah. And then they're gonna do due diligence on 5 different companies. They're gonna do a public RFP and RFQ, whatever. And then
on the road, you're gonna be around for 5 years before you even see
and then it's crazy. Like, I mean, we tore down a building, and they tore down Peel Memorial, and then they were rebuilding it, and that was like a 8-year project. And arguably the building and tear down was a 2-year project, right? It's just working it all and the budget and making everything work. And then it's interesting.
It's unfortunate that it has to go that way, because we need more. We need not more healthcare. We need better healthcare.
You need to utilize technology, right? You need to utilize.
The boomers are getting older.
Yes.
The boomers are used to a certain lifestyle, right?
Right.
Generation before, my mom and dad, right? My mom's still alive, 84. My dad's still alive, 90.
Wow.
Right? And they live in their own places. So
that's good.
If you could exist in your 90s and 80s, living in your own place, beautiful. But if you can't, then you have 2 choices. You're in a retirement home where you live it independently, or you're in, assisted living, which is, government funded.
Right.
But the retirement home, assisted living, you have the same set of issues. You're dealing with older citizens who have all sorts of issues, or, the getting around. There's issues. I mean, there's issues where communication is at the core, right?
Right.
The boomer generation, I know how to use an iPad. I know how to use a smartphone. I know how to use a laptop. So when I move into a retirement home, I want to have this capability.
Right.
Right. Look what happened.
So is that what they're starting to see? Are you starting to see that they're starting to equip these rooms with more and more technology?
Absolutely. Look what
That's
happened.
Interesting. I didn't even think of it. That's like a whole space there.
Let me just back up for a second. When I was at TCS, so I'm doing the research, and I find that the CMA had put out a Canadian Medical Association put out a paper, and this is in 2017, that said that Canada needed roughly about another 200,000 beds to accommodate the boomer generation as the population got older. And they were looking to spend with capital and cost of expenditures, probably $200 billion.
200,000 beds?
For 200,000
beds. They're going to spend $200 billion.
Right? So just do the math. How many, 200,000, 200 beds, blah, 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 right? So $200 billion.
Is that $1,000 per bed? Let me just see.
200,000. Yeah, I would add another couple of digits.
20,000?
Yeah, because my math is slower. My mind is.
I'm doing my math here.
200 billion. 200 billion is what, 12 zeros?
We're gonna do the math right on TV. It's $1 million a bed.
There you go. Right.
$1 million a bed. So my math is way off. So $1 million a bed. That's a pretty good budget.
It's a pretty huge budget.
However, you could build a house. They could build 200,000 homes.
Now that's the point. You're gonna need. Because the
standalone homes.
So in that marketplace, don't let it get out, but it's 200 billion, and that was to cover 2017 to 2035 before a pandemic hit.
Right.
Right now, we find. Just the other day, Mr. Ford was upset when he found out that these homes didn't have air conditioning.
I was just going to bring that up. That the whole fact that there was Yeah, what was it? They don't have AC in their rooms. Like I saw it. I was like, that's crazy. They bring them down on rotation into a cold room. But like, imagine an 80-year-old, 90-year-old who's like sick, sitting in 40-degree weather.
It's amazing because I was joking with my girlfriend. I says, I'm afraid I'm not in air conditioning. I'm not selling air conditioning because, wow, like you're thinking, well, if I'm putting my mom or dad into a room, into a building, right? If I were in the Caribbean and I'm going to a hotel, what's the first thing I ask them for? Maybe the second thing, but definitely the first thing. You got any air conditioning?
AC,
the next question is, do you have Wi-Fi?
Right.
Yeah. No, after that, the room's good, right?
Yeah.
So
as long as there's a lock on the door and maybe a safe box for the passports. But
AC, Wi-Fi. Yeah, we're good. Here you're talking. So you're shocked to find this out. Guess what? I've gone into a number of these places. You walk into the rooms, there's no AC there. So am I saying anything? That's how they run in their place. But if you're going in and checking these homes, if you're inspecting, and don't get me started with the whole accreditation piece, because I think I might have people slapping me or maybe not even calling me. The issues that were identified or the gaps were found through the pandemic, as we are for long-term care, were not properly addressed.
Right.
Like I always talk to my kids about cause and effect, right? We're always dealing with the effect, not dealing with the cause. Right? A plane crashes. What happened? Well, there was software on the plane that didn't allow the pilot to take the plane out of a negative dive. Well, why didn't you test that out? That was the cause. The same thing. Like so, in a long-term care facility, the reason I got into it is on the technology, right? Because I looked at it and I said, guys, this is what we do. We're talking about communication. We're talking about making sure that in your senior years, you have the comfort of communication, right? To your family, to your friends, right? You want that because that's how you're going to communicate with anyone. Having people wave through a window during a pandemic, right? Is not the way I want to
live out your, well, I mean, and I not to kind of go a totally different route, but I think the whole fact that there's no visitors, you can't visit, like people that have passed away, unfortunately, and I've had some friends, relatives and different, people, their relatives that have passed away. Most recently, my buddy's father passed away. Yeah. No visitors. No one was even aware that they had passed away for, a few hours. And there's no ability to have funerals. There's no, like, a lot of that. And even in the final hours or days, not even to be able to comfort that loved one or be there, it's kind of sad, actually. It's super. It's
there's not even a word for it beyond. It's like really beyond sad.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
I know athletes who've lost to COVID. So we're playing with politics and all the verbiage. At the end of the day, we need homes that have proper. We're talking about Wi-Fi 6 now, right? So you've got homes that are whatever Wi-Fi generation back. So you need to update that. That needs to be upgraded so they can, we're talking 5G, right? We're all in 4G. We were on 3G, right? Now we're going to be the 5G. We're going to upgrade. Now you and I can upgrade. Well, now in the homes, they should be upgraded too, right? Yeah. So all that, I expect that to happen. So I want to be a facilitator for that. I want my organization to be. So long-term care, LTC also stands for love, trust, and compassion.
I was going to say TLC, tender loving care, right?
So when I do my presentation, I bring that up. I said, yes, he's LTC because I also have senior living. There's also Rock Senior Living because senior living is the retirement homes, right? That's where that umbrella. And then long-term care is, of course, the nursing homes and assisted living. And they're two different models, two different presentations because, of course, long-term care is long-term care. You're talking assisted living, you need nurses and doctors and communications. And the issue we also found, hospital communication with the long-term care facilities, right? Doctors coming in periodically, they're not living on property.
Right.
They're coming in from outside. So that same doctor could be bringing COVID into your operation. Right. So I just finished doing some presentations yesterday on thermal facial scanners.
Okay.
Right? Last year, I wasn't talking about thermal facial anything. I was just talking about, right? long-term care. I was just talking about cybersecurity, protecting your patient information, resident information, Wi-Fi, wireless nurse call systems, right, that are Alexa friendly. So I can use an Alexa box and say, nurse, need help, and it will ring the nearest nurse and bring that nurse to me. Right. So that's the type of technology. So the key is to take technology, apply it in practical situations, and bring that to the long-term care facilities and retirement homes.
Right.
And wearables, right? I'm using a Fitbit right now.
Wearable technology, yeah.
Right, to track my heart rate. Well, guess what? If I have a wearable I can put on a resident, and they may have a heart issue or whatever have you, and I can get an alarm and a notification, right? I'm talking to a company about GPS soles, where you have GPS on the soles of the shoe, where you track a resident so that they're not wandering,
out into
wandering in a bad part of the. So there's technologies that are there.
It's funny you talk about the wearable. I worked with a company a couple of years ago, probably about 8 years ago, and they were developing some sort of like heart monitor type of wearable.
Yeah.
I think it was it was a T-shirt.
Yeah.
I think it was actually like a piece of clothing that you could put on.
Hexoskin that has that.
Yeah, and it's got like sort of senses all your kind of like your vitals.
Well,
right?
Do you remember Star Trek by any chance? You remember Star Trek?
I know of it. I'm not going to say I'm.
Well, in Star Trek, right? You have Dr. McCoy.
Yeah.
Leonard McCoy is a doctor, right? A lot of people patent.
Leonard Nimoy.
Oh, no? Leonard Nimoy was the
later.
Spock.
Okay, Spock. Okay.
But the real name of the doctor on the show was Leonard McCoy. Dr. McCoy. Called him Bones, right?
Okay.
Anyway, he had these wonderful little tools that he'd go to a person and he goes, well, his autonomic system is.
It was like a full diagnostic with like one swipe, yeah.
That's right, and he's or a tricorder that he would, he'd look at the person, he would tell you what's wrong with them and how he can fix them, and right. And then in his operating room, which was, I've joked about this, but I envision seeing this. He'd have an operating room where you're on this bed, right? And above the bed was the diagnostics of everything. There's about 6 or 7 main diagnostics. So the patient is alive or they're dead, right? So when they're alive, their stuff is, and he's just checking and he's watching, right? And then when a person dies, everything falls, right?
Okay.
Very, very visual.
Yeah.
But that bed with the sensors that keep track of everything, right? As opposed to all those monitors, you never saw a monitor other than that one monitor in Star Trek. It's
right.
Just one. Whereas you go to a hospital room and there's like, how many machines that are in there monitoring this and that and whatever have you. So I envision that happening, like, the same as they had the flip, communicator.
The phone,
that's turned into our smartphones.
So are we gonna be transporting from here to the moon? That's in the near future, right?
Hey,
teletransportation?
We've already hit the moon. We're talking about going to Mars now.
Well, no, I mean teletransportation, where we literally like
beam me up.
Yeah, beam me up, Scotty. Exactly. That's
I would love to see that happen, because I could like to say, I'm going to go down to the like a total recall.
Yeah.
Beam me to Barbados.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
So I don't have to take that 5-hour flight.
Yeah, exactly. Just sit in the tub and you're already there.
Just bring the family. Get the suitcases and you stand on those little pads
for a weekend.
Scotty hit it and
back by dinner.
That's right.
Spend the day at the beach and you're back by dinner, right?
Bring that technology. They can break your molecules down and read,
Yeah. I actually heard, I say a lot of stuff on these shows and they're probably all unfounded, but I do hear or watch news. I just never can remember the exact specifics. But I think there was somebody has actually done something like that where they've actually taken transported something. I believe it's in the news. Maybe look it up. I don't know.
It's quite possible.
It could be fake news. Who knows?
We are still learning.
Oh yeah.
What science can do.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent. We still, I mean, think we're talking about cloning, man. Remember cloning? Ooh,
right.
Clone somebody. Guess what? They clone animals, and someone tried to clone a person.
Yeah.
Right? Or in, some far off country where you don't have the so-called
the same regulatory rules.
So back to so Rock Long-Term Care is really a simple. We are an independent technology. I call it a sales agency, because what I do, I don't manufacture any of this technology. Right? It's not like I'm going to go and manufacture. What I'm looking for is the best-in-class manufacturers. So we are partnered with Cisco Systems. We've partnered with Access Communications. They do a lot of the cameras that you see in the marketplace. And the cameras have thermal recognition. They have audio, remote monitoring, that kind of thing. We have, in fact, I've got another call this afternoon with another potential partner, again, within Wi-Fi, within the wireless piece. Partner out of Ottawa called Zodiac. We do wireless nurse call. That's with the Alexa piece. So my goal is to basically reach out to the executive, do the awareness thing. There's an old movie, Glenn Ross.
Yeah.
The famous.
Only closers get the good leads.
Exactly. Always be. Well, if you look at the board where he has always be closing when Alex Baldwin is speaking, there's another board just beside, or another, and it says AIDA, awareness, interest, decision, and action.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been working on for the last 10 years. So I make sure that people are aware of what we have to offer or what technologies are available to them. Generate interest by literally, I bring the subject matter expert to their door. I'm a sales guy. Yeah, I want the business. I'm a sales guy, president, marketing, whatever. I do it all. But at the end of the day, I need the subject matter expert in the room so they can answer the questions, because they know the product, they developed it, or they worked on it regularly, whether it be a technician, whatever have you.
Right.
So they'll do the presentation, really. I sit and I listen to the kind of questions that the client is asking, right? Because they're trying to relate that to their business.
Yeah.
And then
so you can sort of guide the conversation between the two, right?
So I'm a facilitator, moderator, but the key for me is to identify the gap that they may have in their communication / network / their business in general,
right?
And then go find someone that can fit that gap. So I have lots of flexibility. So I'm not tied to, I work for Bell or I work for Rogers and I can only sell
certain
Rogers
products or services.
If they want a mobile solution, I'll bring the Rogers guy in, the Bell guy in, the Telus guy in, the guy from Tech Savvy, bring them all in, and then you can make decisions. But before I bring them all in, I will have to identify what key piece of information they need, so I can eliminate 2 or 3 of those guys and say, by the way, these guys have your solution. You should listen to them. So that's where the consultancy comes in. Yeah,
interesting. So, I greatly appreciate all the insight. It's amazing. So that, just to kind of quickly touch on, you've obviously now kind of ventured out on your own as an entrepreneur. What's that been like? Like, what compared to, a role with, say, Rogers or Lucent or, some of the smaller firms you worked with throughout the years, now being your own boss truly and running your own organization? And I'm assuming, do you have employees or staff, or is it primarily yourself and a support team, or how's it been, all of that hiring, all of those things, like how have you found all of that?
We're still, from Rock Ltc, still in early days. The key is, we were looking, myself looking to work a virtual model at the onset before the pandemic hit and we were locked down. I want to use tools like the Zoom and the WebEx to work with clients, because they're busy. And back in the day, yes, call up, hey, can I get 30 minutes with Justin? Well, talk to the EAA or whatever have you. Well,
the gatekeeper, the gatekeeper.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're virtual. My organization is right now 1. I'd like to have maybe another 2 or 3 people, right, working virtual. I'm not interested in going into an office, Justin. Been there, done that. Not necessary. Look at where we are. I can easily get to talking to you as the executive right here, right now. You can share with me what your concerns are. And the next time I call, I'll bring on my subject matter expert. Oh, by the way, here's Bill. Bill will share with you what, and Bill will fill you in. He'll answer your questions as best he can based on what I've already primed him on in terms of your, or your concerns or what have you. So we don't need to have the old model.
The overhead costs in the infrastructure.
Exactly.
Where you still have the same technology infrastructure, but not sort of the brick and mortar overheads.
And what the pandemic taught us was that we needed to get our networks in gear. You're sending people home, and you need to make sure when they went home, they have proper internet, they've got a good laptop, phone connection, blah, blah, blah. So we should have done that before, but it took a pandemic for us to realize, yeah, you know what? And a lot of companies said, hey, why are we bringing the sales guys into the office anyway?
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be in the office.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be on the road, talking to clients, visiting people, blah, blah. Why
it's
are
funny you mentioned that. It's
funnel
funny.
Call. They're in for a funnel call.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, we can do a funnel call.
You can do it from remotely, right? Anywhere, right?
Anywhere.
It's funny. My wife works for a hospital.
Yeah.
I won't say any names, but if people watch this show, they've heard me mention it. Anyways, they sent them home for March break.
Yes.
That Friday, and everyone was requesting to work from home. And so the department head and whoever said, no, nobody is working from home. Everyone must return on Monday. Okay.
Yeah.
So they all returned to work the following Monday. We actually were off because we had planned to be away for March break. We went to Cuba, against all better judgment from everyone else. We had a great time, but anyways, while they were working that week, they continue to say, we want to work from home. This is, they're now working in a hospital. Things are starting to ramp up.
Yeah.
And they were saying, no, 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 no. So literally they sent them home on Friday, that next Friday.
Yeah.
And they, two of her, coworkers had tested positive.
Yeah.
And from that 1 week. The following Monday, they said everyone work from home. The problem is they had told everyone they weren't working from home. So nobody had any of their laptops or any equipment at home. Yeah. So literally the manager of the department and a bunch of the departments had to drive around to people's houses, dropping off laptops and mouse and all these different things, literally, so that these people could work. It's like, well, why didn't you just say yes? Yeah. 3 days earlier, and we would have brought our stuff, or even say maybe you will, maybe bring your stuff, but instead of being adamant, no.
I don't know where that comes from, Justin. Yeah. We've been talking about a work-life balance. When I was at Lucent,
right,
my ex, I call my ex-wife, but Barb, was working downstairs with another division, and they decided to send everybody home, right? So we were, Richmond Hill. So Bell came in, dug a trench, and put in another line at our house, right? So we had a home line, business line. We had a shredder. I still have the shredder right here next to me. We had a full cubicle, right?
Set up in your house.
Everything is good. So there we are. We're working at home. 6 months later, a new guy comes in. We want everybody back in the office. What? Yeah. So we went back into the office. So we're in these little cubicles, or you're in an open concept space, whatever. Some guy comes along and says, hey, you know what? Let's everybody be in the same room at the same time. So I'm next to Justin and Bill, and their conversations I can hear, because there's no separation. There's nothing. So you're in a sales call, and the guy is on a sales call telling you to tell your buddy to shut up because he's too loud.
Oh yeah, I've been on those calls.
Right.
I've been in a boiler room situation where it's
you do? They set up a little room over here that you can go away and
quiet room.
Calls.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, guys, it's not, we're doing all this stuff. I have this stuff at home. I have my laptop. I have my own personal laptop that I'm using right now. My company laptop. All I need is a VPN access to the company on my own laptop. I'm not taking anything from the company. Oh, you can stop me from downloading, but guess what? they don't think out of the box, but we keep telling our clients that we can do all this technology. You want to do, we have law firms that they want to send their law clerks home and answer the phone just like they were in the office.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure that out, but I can't get my manager to get me to go home to do the same thing.
It's interesting. I think, I mean, I look at it too. I mean, we're pretty advanced technologically wise, I guess. However you want to say that. As a company. But I still, I mean, even myself, I worked from home probably for the past, off and on past 4 or 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And I had a retail business, so I worked there as well. I was there 7 days a week, but prior to that, but I still think, I wonder, there's still that sort of, this is maybe why there's sort of the uncertainty of you can't, because you can't see them and they can't see you. There's that sort of uncertainty whether work is being done. So there's sort of that level of trust or mistrust, maybe with employees, right? From a management perspective, and vice versa. I mean, it's also, it's okay. I have a setup.
But you use the word mistrust.
Mistrust, right?
Why am I hiring you?
Yeah, because you're trusting and you're expecting that to be there, right?
Hiring a salesperson because you're trusting that they're going to do their job.
Right, of course.
Like saying, I've got a firefighter that I don't trust unless he's sitting
next to you in the fire exit or whatever, right? Yeah, driving down the road with you.
Capable of doing his job. When the fire alarm goes off, he drives over or he meets you there or whatever. You send the pumper and he meets you there and he does his job and heads back home, right? Unless he's injured. But we need to have trust.
So there's that aspect, but I think the other aspect too, and this is, I kind of, the trust thing, I think if you can monitor it, like from technology perspective, there's a lot of things where you start to get into a little bit of like nanny state sort of stuff, right? But there's the other side where I think there's also the, the culture aspect around, building the bonds and the relationships amongst people. But I think something like this that I think has been overlooked is Zoom or like face-to-face.
Absolutely.
Having these meetings, we do it in our with backers. We do it, we have a daily team meeting with sort of everyone comes in every morning. Sometimes people miss it, but for the most part, we get a chance to kind of all catch up.
And Justin, you could record the session. So if you missed it,
right? Yeah.
If you didn't get to the meeting, you can say, "Oh, I'll check out what happened to the meeting, what there were pertinent issues." What the things we get away from is, one, if there's an agenda and we cover the agenda and you have not to be there, then you can walk the agenda with the Zoom call or the WebEx call.
Right.
I've always been of the same mind. I go, guys, we have the technology, right? We're telling clients, literally, we're going out as salespeople going, we have this wonderful
selling technology, but not using it.
You could do this with it, right? And then I come back to the office and we're still in 1970, right? Oh, go make those cold calls, pound away 85, calls a day and 100 calls a day. I go, no, they're called warm calls. You know why they're called warm calls? Because he did some investigation. He figured out I need to talk to Justin. And when he called in, he say, "Hi, can I speak to Justin?" Warm call. So it's none of this, a Rolodex of nondescript companies with the phone number. That doesn't work anymore. It does not work anymore.
Yeah.
So companies like mine, I think, are going to propagate because, one, you're going to get virtual. Two, you're going to have to build trust with your partners. Like the same people I'm talking about, their sales reps and their engineers are all working from home today. Right?
Yeah.
I'm talking to clients who are sitting in their homes. Executives, CEOs, they're in their homes. They're not in the office. They're at their homes. So we're talking about a work-life balance. There's still work to be done. In fact, there's I think there's one country is talking about moving. I think it's Sweden or definitely Europe. That's going from a 5-day week to a 4-day week.
4-day week.
So question is, can we not do?
Do we take Wednesday off? That'd be the day, right? You work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
take your pick, because in a 9 to 5 scenario, what is that anymore?
Yeah.
Are you working 9 to 5?
I do not.
I have a full Well, you know, the waking hours from the time I get up like about 8:30, right?
Yeah.
And I'm literally on, because I figure, well, I'm not on the highway.
Yeah.
I could sleep another hour because normally I'd get up at 7 to get on the road to be
To
in the
get
office,
somewhere.
right?
Yeah.
I could take that extra minute. So I'm fresher. When I get on the calls, I sound exuberant. I got some passion, as opposed to I just came off the highway, man, and man, that was a long traffic time.
Yeah. You're waiting for your 9:30
Gotta go
coffee
get my
break.
coffee. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
None of
Yeah.
that. So you can the productivity scale is in the 40% range for people working from home. So if a manager truly is, what's the word I'm looking for? They have some vision, right? And they really want to bring that culture to their organization. Then you need to make sure that the people that are working for you feel good about it, because that's how it's going to come across to a client. I feel great working here. And when you deliver a presentation to an organization, you have to have passion. They got to see that you believe in what you're selling, not that I'm being pushed to sell this thing, right? So for me, it's having a virtual clientele, right? Because my goal is to make sure that I can get to a client, make them aware, right? I have my own database. I'm using HubSpot, for anybody who knows. I don't get any money for that. But I have my own database, and I've crafted the database. I've got like 987 contacts who are mostly executives and or general managers of the province.
So you use some sort of like email drip flow automation?
Marketing.
Yeah.
I get a 45% take rate.
Yeah.
Right? That will never be beaten by any cold calling whatsoever. Right?
So, and you can do that weekly, monthly, whatever,
daily,
for now until
not too much, right? But definitely weekly, and have to be poignant, right? I craft an article based on a technology, keep it simple, and then say, by the way, for more information, give me a call or check out the website or whatever have you.
Yeah.
So email marketing, I 110%, right? Because behind email marketing, you'll get those warm calls. Because when I find out who I need to speak to, right, I can call Justin and say, Justin, I'm sorry I bother you, but I was trying to reach your IT manager. Here's what I'm talking about. Oh, people love to help.
Yeah.
Have an innate, right? 99.9%, they will point you in the right direction. So you don't have to have that heavy spiel script. Trust me, I know about writing call scripts. I've got thousands of lessons and like years of that, right?
Yeah.
The call script is as I'm talking to you right now, right? Justin, listen, sorry about it, right? So using the technology and the knowledge we have in sales, we can make it a lot easier on the sales practice, right? It is an art form. It's not for everybody, but it's not a matter of being rejected by a client. It's not having the right solution for a client.
Right.
If people thinking, well, I'm not going to get, I have younger kids, obviously. My children, 21, 23, and 26, right? And, you know, Ryan's finishing off in university at the Wilfrid Laurier. He wants to be a biologist. And Ariel is in sales. She's going to be a store manager at Yves Rocher at Hillcrest Mall.
Okay.
Sorry, I mean, I'm gonna do some marketing for her.
There you go.
I have never sat down with my son and daughter and talked about selling.
Right.
Right. I always talk about being good people and being relatable to people.
Of course.
And so Rock Ltc is about going into an organization, ABC, and one, being relatable to them, understanding their environment. You're in a long-term care environment. It's not fun. No offense, but you're taking care of people. You need to make sure that through their last years, because the average is 87 years in these places. So, right? And in some places, it's bordering on 100. You go into some of these places and you go, well, wow, but you do learn about what it takes to deliver a service, because it is a service. Long-term care is a service, right? It's a building, but you're servicing people, and you're servicing people, I don't want to say end of life, but you need
pretty much,
last part of their life, you need to have quality. So it's sad, but it's a sad that can be corrected, that you can correct into joy.
You can make it more positive.
Tools, right? Proper communication, staff and resident management. The technologies we have today, wearables, you name it. We have the technology today to make your time in long-term care not a miserable time.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
in light of a pandemic, if you have, I use the example, I just sent off an email a couple of weeks back about a home in France. It was on CBC, whatever it was, one of CTV, where the day after the lockdown, they just shut the doors. They kept the staff in, kept the residents in, and all they used was Facebook to communicate to the families what was happening, right? They were 50 staff, 29 of them stayed in. They had roughly 100 and some residents, averaging age 87. And at the end of, like, after 47 days, they came out of a lockdown, right? Tested COVID, nobody was positive, right? And I said, had we had that information, like had we had like an early warning system like we do for tornadoes or hurricanes. When a hurricane's coming or a tornado, get out of the way. People go, I'm going to stay on board up. Well, you made your choice. But if we had some way of understanding if a pandemic is going to be coming to our shore, right, then we can bring in our disaster management strategy and say, okay, we're going to lock down, but you have to have everything in place, because if you lock down, you don't have proper communication. Forget food and entertainment, but just
communication.
Then it's going to be difficult. But if you have already have a strategy that says, if in event of an emergency, this is what we do, and we're just not talking about fire, right?
Yeah.
Or we get lightning strike, but we're true pandemic, and that is what we need going forward. Because Lord knows we went through one in 1918. Then there was SARS. I have
I was away during SARS, so I don't even remember it, ironically.
But I had a vendor's market at the Queen Elizabeth building, Saturday of Caravana.
Okay, at the end of the summer?
In SARS, right? June SARS, that same year.
Wow.
So there was no mass, there was no lockdown. There was, 750,000 people partying outdoors, outside. And we had another 50,000 some inside, right? There was none of that. In fact, my neighbor was asking me, he goes, I wasn't here for SARS. Nice Persian gentleman. He goes, so how was it? I said, it was nothing like this. No one was wearing masks. We didn't even think about locking down.
It's funny. I was in Korea. In Korea during SARS. I was teaching English over there. So I've been to Korea as well. Did you go to Seoul during the 88?
Well, I didn't get to go.
Couldn't go to right.
I love to go. But
I was there in 2002, 3, somewhere around there. And so basically during the whole SARS thing, and it was. I remember my parents were like, "Oh, SARS," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's in your hospital next to you. Not they're worried about me." I'm like, "It's literally up the street at Scarborough Grace Hospital, right? It's the other side of the world from where I am." They're like, "Oh, well, it's because everyone thought it was sort of this Asian thing, right?" And I'm like, "No, it's literally in your backyard." Yeah. More so than anywhere else.
We need to learn from this. If a hurricane, if you live in Florida and don't think you're going to get hit by a hurricane, I have news for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Get a cement house, right? So I'm working with Blue Dot, who's they do outbreak risk software.
Okay.
Right? And they're right at the forefront. In fact, the doctor, the CEO, Haram, he lost 3 of his colleagues to SARS.
Oh, really?
Right? So he set up this organization. So Blue Dot, nobody knocked on their door to say, how are you tracking this pandemic? Yet they were giving out early warning signs. So people who are running these facilities, the Chartwells, the Siennas, you've got to get much smarter. You've got to get much sharper. You've got to look globally, not just locally, and see what might be coming to your door that could impact your residents. And we all know the numbers now. We got the statistics, and the government's running helter-skelter. But we're talking, it's nice to say, well, these are our it's sort of like these are the elders of our tribe.
Yeah.
Right? And what we're doing is we're putting them in a smokehouse, right? On the edge of the reservation. I hate to use that, And we're just, we'll visit them once in a while.
It's like you're sending them down the river in a raft and being like,
we'll visit them once in a while to see if they're still around, right?
Right.
No. All right. I would love to be able to do like a friend of mine does. We were just at some friends, and she had worked in healthcare. Well, she has this thing called EasyWiz. I'll put that out there for anybody. And EasyWiz is an app that you can put on your phone, and you can also put, with your grandma, right?
Okay.
because her mom and dad are having dementia and Alzheimer's issues.
So eliminates the technology side on their end potentially, right?
That's right. So she's using TeamViewer,
right,
to access the laptop in the room,
right,
where her parents are. They're living in their own condo, right?
Yeah.
They're not in a long-term care. But she's using that because they don't have the ability to manage in fact, the dad's losing the memory, so he can't remember how to turn on a laptop.
right.
She's able to use TeamViewer to go in and turn on a laptop, and
So control it remotely, basically,
right?
and then
And
initiate a conversation and start
exactly.
talking to them through like a
Zoom,
video chat.
Zoom meeting and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
So you go, and that's being done today, and she's doing it for her mom and dad who are living in their own condo.
What's the app she uses? What's it called?
EasyWiz.
EasyWiz. So does EasyWiz use TeamViewer, or how does that work?
Oh no, TeamViewer is a different app.
So she's using EasyWiz and TeamViewer kind of.
You have a TeamViewer, right? A lot of
yeah.
use that to remote.
We use a variation of TeamViewer to work on other clients. Yeah.
And we're sitting there having, we're doing one of the social distancing in their backyard, and because they know that I've set up Rock Ltc, and what I want is, like I said, practical technology that we can use, because think of it, I've got my mom and dad in a long-term care facility, not in the same room, and I can't see them for days.
Yeah.
But if I could at least see them this way.
Yeah.
Right? Minimum.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I got to get a nurse to get an iPad to walk into their room.
Right. And now you're wasting the nurse's time and effort and energy. Not that it's a waste, but it's like, it's a stress on.
Exactly.
Yeah, they can't do that all the time.
It's not a function that the nurse should be doing.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is COVID-19.
Right. Yeah. Handing that tablet from everyone around and stuff. Yeah.
Asking, how many tablets do you have? Some places I've gone to, they've got 300 residents. You got 300 tablets?
That's really interesting, because I mean, my dad just got into WhatsApp. Yeah. And he loves it. He only calls us on WhatsApp. Like
my mom's the same thing.
I got a 4 and a 6-year-old, 2 little boys, and so they, it's like call grandma and grandpa, right? And so my parents are not quite as up. They're 77, 76. Right? So so they love it though. Like the video chat. Like I mean, they're in Scarborough, so they're not far, and we see them usually weekly. There was a bit of time there during this sort of early part of the pandemic, we couldn't really go see them, or we drive by and sort of like wave from the end of the driveway. But they love the WhatsApp, so if, I can imagine them not being able to use it and then being able to have something set up in their house where it just turned on. It's like, hey mom, hey dad, I'm here. And they'd be like, where is that coming from? The TV turns on, and it's but still, then they get in that conversation, right?
Well, for us, the boomers, we shouldn't be shocked. The generation before would have, but for us, it should be like,
that's it.
I have a TV there that I have a channel that it's a family channel. I should hey.
Dad came on and just said, hey, are you there? Talking about Demolition Man, I think that's in that, isn't it? Or is that a different one? What's the one with Sandra Bullock?
That's what the Demolition Man.
So when she's at the house.
Yes.
And I guess so Wesley Snipes is the bad guy trying to chase them or whatever, right? And she's at the house, and the TV just turns on, and then they're like, and it's like, oh hey, and she's like naked, because it like just shows up, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Or something like that. She's like indisposed. Yeah. Right?
I know the scene.
Yeah, so something along those.
There's technologies there, and we had birthdays on Zoom.
Yeah.
And so. My brother stays with my mom. He's transitioning to his own place. He's been there for the whole pandemic, whatever. So if she can't figure it out, he'll just come upstairs and mom. And my mom gets on there. She dominates the entire thing. I'm the patriarch of the family. I mean, the matriarch of the family. And you think she'd been doing this all her life, but but once she gets it, the same thing with WhatsApp. Once she figured out she can call her friends in New York and
all over, Ireland,
she's from Guyana, South America, so she's calling into her cousin, her nephew in Guyana, whatever have you. Beautiful. So
free. They love that. Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, back in the day when I was Lucent, they had the video conferencing phone, the video phone, right? And they were trying to sell that. It was a company, I can't remember, ACAN or something, whatever. It'll come to me, whatever. But they were trying to sell the video phone. I remember going to a presentation at someone's house, right? And I go, well, first of all, you got to get onto with the service providers because you have no network. But they were like, oh, we have these agreements coming. I'm like, well, good luck with that. Because if Bell's not bringing the phone themselves, you're going to have a tough time trying to sell the phone and then have them connect. Anyway, so, but the video phone, and one of the things we found in sort of focus groups is that, the older folks didn't really want to be on a video call with their grandkids. They want to have their grandkids come over.
Right.
Follow me? So the same with ladies on a video call, right? I want to look, look like, I gotta look good. So when we were selling video conferencing into companies, right, it was vetoed many times by the ladies. Right?
They didn't want people to see what they look like.
No.
Yeah.
But now you've got.
It's out of necessity, though.
I'm
right?
white. I got white here. I'm going gray. Yeah. I don't care. Right?
Yeah.
You see the people like the perfect example is Lisa LaFlamme.
Okay, yeah.
CTV, right? Lisa LaFlamme, now she's white.
Yeah.
Right? So she's like, I'm not gonna be doing this. This is how I am.
Yeah. Don't hide who you are. Exactly. I think that's a cultural shift too, though, right?
Exactly. So now we get away from I'm buttoned up and I gotta look. Now I can relax.
Yeah.
Right? You come to the meeting, I mean, obviously you're not being butt naked.
I'm wearing a t-shirt, but hey.
I'm wearing pants.
Yeah. Are you? What's down below? Yes, I'm wearing pants. I've got shorts and a t-shirt on, but yeah.
Jeans on.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Well, have you seen those ones where the guys, like, I think the one, he was afraid to get up because he wasn't wearing pants and the kids like running and the mom's coming in? Yeah, he's right. Yeah, but anyways, and it's definitely a cultural shift,
relax, right? So the key is our society. We need to relax. We got not only the COVID thing. We have Black Lives Matter, and racism. And I've joined the West Hall anti-racism. The business leader, right? I signed the CEO pledge. I have been about Black.
Tell me about that. I'm not familiar with the West Hall.
Well, West Hall runs it's a financial services company. They do proxies and whatever have for companies buying other companies, things like that. It's all Kingfish Capital, I think. I probably got the name wrong.
Okay.
But when the whole George Floyd issue.
Kingsdale Advisors? I just looked it up.
Kingsdale Advisors, that's it.
Is that him? Yeah.
And that's him. So Wes basically put out a challenge to the top 100 TSX businesses, other businesses in Canada, to join what's called the Canadian Business Leaders Against Anti-Racism and Injustice, right? A council. And then he put out a CEO pledge. And basically he's calling in, the CEOs and saying, by the way, guys, we have 1.2 million people of African descent. Let's call them Black. And there's not much representation on your boards. So let's find a way to make this change. And that's and he's asking for 3.5%, right?
Right. Actually, I think I did.
Of the boards, right?
Right.
Not of the people. But I've been on technology. There was Black Internet Technology Entrepreneurs. Now there's the Black Professional Technology Network. And I get it. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 some years, and there's, there is a lack of, but yes and no. We've got to, first of all, get the kids educated at the lower levels into programs, right?
Right.
Just, I don't care, elementary school. It's like back in the day, they had this economics of staying in school program.
Okay.
So I went in with my CEO from Lucent, and we used to go to different schools talking about, jobs in technology and whatever have you, and then talk about a little finance. We'll play some role play with the kids in terms of doing a budget and things like that.
Right.
That's gone away. You don't even see that anymore, right?
I definitely don't remember any CEOs coming to talk to me, and I would have been in around that age if you're sort of in the early 90s.
That program
right?
wasn't, it wasn't continuous, like participation, right? It was like good for the 70s or 80s when the speed was doing better than now. It's we don't care about health anymore. we got to continue with programs that can truly add value, especially with the kids. People are like, well, oh, they're teaching kids how to be, financially responsible in schools now, or they're looking to bring those programs in. I'm like, what's taking you so long? How to balance a checkbook? Well, who's using a checkbook anymore, right? Let's show them how to get online and use a Tangerine or ICI or whatever. Like, show them what they can do with the technology that's involved with their lives, because they're trying to balance how to buy a home and mortgages and things like that. Teach them those things so when they come out, they have some, right? Hell, teach them how to be a parent, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's get to
life skills.
Oh, remember I did home ec in college.
I think they canceled it. I was just talking about that with a buddy. We did shop and home ec in grade 7 and 8.
Yeah.
And I think they've eliminated that completely.
Why? Why would you eliminate that? Because the guys could figure out how to change a tire and do oil change and right? Really fix a car. You want your car fixed, you take it to the shop at the school.
Yeah.
Right? Because those guys who are wizard mechanics and they're just in high school, we had guys driving around in darts that are souped up. What do you think they were doing? Going to the garage or fixing
their own car, exactly.
And then home ec, well, I took home ec in college, but the ladies were doing the home ec thing because, we had that sort of gender bias. But guys can do home ec. Learn how to cook.
Yeah. Oh, we did. I did shop and home ec was a grade 7 and 8 mandatory course. So we learned how to sew and cook and home ec and, woodworking, and it wasn't mechanics. We didn't have a mechanical shop, but like woodworking and some of that sort of stuff in shop. Yeah. So
why, to me, that's a value to the kid or kids, because you get a hands on that applied piece.
Yeah.
Right? And then they can decide. Trades. I mean, my girlfriend's Italian. And what do you think we talk about? We talk about the lack of the motivation within her community, which is known for the trades, right? Construction and manufacturing, where their kids are not moving to those anymore. They want to do digital marketing, right?
Everyone wants to be a digital marketer, right?
I'm like,
these days.
What? I know how many guys I know built fortunes just doing drywall.
Right.
Or electrical.
Yeah, or framing plumbing. Or whatever, yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to do that? Oh, but you want the $100 million car, right? Or house, and you want well, how do you think those guys got that, right?
Yeah.
And somehow, I don't know where that's fallen off the rails. My kids, no. Guys, they were dog walking service when they were younger. They did newspaper service when they were younger.
Very entrepreneurial.
I was already giving them that, hey, you want to earn your dollar for yourself. That's where the work ethic is. And no different than athletics. No one's going to give you an Olympic medal.
So I'm going to, you of all can attest. Let's do a full circle there. You of all can attest to that. So let me actually, I want to get a little bit political. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. So I'm very much for the Black Lives Matter movement. I think, in a lot of avenues, there are huge grounds that need to be made up, and there's a lot of inequality. I think, in some people say, oh, well, we're better than we were, blah, 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 right? But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, where do you see, like, someone who's been, arguably had success, has had opportunity, but, obviously sees that maybe there's others who haven't. Like, what are your thoughts around that, or just in general? I don't want to put too many words out there.
People probably slam me for this, but I prefer Black, right? Negro and Caucasian are racial segregation, because I just posted on Facebook, Bill Nye says we're all of one species. We all are one race, but we have this racist thing, right?
Yeah.
You're yellow, you're black, you're green, you're blue, we got the spectrum problem. We're all of the same species. That's one. We need to.
They say genetically, pretty much everyone outside of sub-Saharan Africans are from the same descendant.
Probably.
And so that's like,
And the scientists basically say we're from one point. Okay, let's start there. So if we're from Africa, and when we moved off from Africa, and ultraviolet rays aside, we're one's lighter
over time.
But the problem. The issue we've had, and I went to school in the U.S., so there was, there's black and white. Unfortunately,
Southern Illinois, right? So Chicago.
Illinois, that's right. 5 hours south of Chicago.
South of Chicago, okay.
2 hours east of St. Louis. So I was in St. Louis, and and in I was in the Midwest more. So,
right.
Wichita and Kansas, and
right.
That I spent Kentucky, and occasionally we'd go down to Mississippi. So the issue of the Black experience in North America, as I used to call it, right, is one to me of equity, right? And it's anti-racism and injustice, right, will only be removed to me when there's some equality from a standpoint of equity, right? And I don't expect a person of Italian descent and or Jewish descent or whatever descent to be offering my child a job. And I'll say that loudly because people think, well, what do you mean? I said, because if I have a business, Rock Ltc, and it's successful, where do you think I want my succession to be? I want it to be my son and or daughter, right? Right? And I happen to be a person of color, a Black guy. So I want the progression of my, if I was on a farm and I was 18th generation, it would have been 18 generations of Black people, right? So that's where we need to focus on too. We need to have Black equity, right? So I'd like to see programs where we are training, educating the kids on entrepreneurship. I just posted on LinkedIn about a young 16-year-old Glovely. He put together a company called Glovely. Okay. Black kid, right? He's doing 6 figures already. It's his third. He's already called a serial entrepreneur. This is his third business. He's 16. We need more Marcuses. Yeah. Right? Because Marcus can then choose to hire who he wants to hire. Right? Hopefully he'll hire more people of his ilk. Right? And then they'll form businesses, subsidies of that or subsidiaries of that, and become, right? And we continue that. The problem we've had in the time that I've been here, and our family's been here since 1967, right? So it was 1965, I believe, that the immigration law was put in place, so that allowed people to immigrate. And I'm English born, Caribbean raised, right? So the issue for me with anti-Black racism is that you need to, one, put equity in that, right? Because there's about 4 or 5 systems in play. The justice system, the financial system, the education system, right? And I think once you have Black people who have equity in each one of those systems, then anti-racism would be gone. And that, I think, Indigenous as well, because a few years back, 2003, when I did my vendors market, I ran into a gentleman named Alan Rock, namesake, but he was the Minister of Industry Canada. And I approached Alan. I met him at a Harry Jerome Awards function, right? He was there giving an award or whatever. I said, I'd love to speak to you because there was a program that called the Aboriginal Business Development Initiative. And they'd given $19 million to the Aboriginal community to develop businesses. Right. And I put together an 8-page paper talking about our history here and, why we need that kind of thing. But nothing came of it from the Industry of Canada. He moved on to another portfolio, whatever have you. But over in Nova Scotia, there's the Black Business Initiative that gets $6 million, receives $6 million from the Economic Development Program in Nova Scotia. And they have funded 98 businesses, Black businesses. Right. And in Ontario, we don't have such a program. So not that they just be given money for free. I expect that those people coming with ideas, have a business plan. I'm working on my business plan for Rock Ltc right now. Right? Can I tell you what Backers, this is sort of what we like, what one of the underlying things of Backers, right? We're essentially a social funding platform. So the premise is you have a business idea, we joke, we say banks say no, lenders want your firstborn, and sharks can smell blood, right? So basically those are your typical funding options. So our model is we have a platform where the typical term is called equity crowdfunding. It's all about, fostering ownership or startups or entrepreneurship, and allowing, these startups, these ideas, from any culture, any person from any walk of life. We're working with an organization right now around Native, sort of Canadians
Indigenous people, and sort of looking at programs we can help sort of promote, within their communities. But the idea is, though, if you have the idea of a business or a business idea, you can then take that idea to a population of people, whoever, your customer base, your client base, it can be your local community, it can be anybody, present the idea to them. If they like the idea, they're going to buy the product or service, right?
Yeah.
But we also, what we do is our platform then allows you to take it one step further, and we call it upselling with equity. So now when they buy your product or service, they then can invest. So you then give them the opportunity to, you've bought our product, you follow what we do, you're part of our community, you understand who we are, you like what we're doing. Now you have the opportunity to invest as a retail investor in our private corporation. So private companies can raise up to $1.5 million on our platform through what's called the 45-108 crowdfunding exemption, which is through the Ontario Securities Commission. So they can raise up to 1.5 million from an unlimited number of retail investors. So everyday individuals. So what happens is now that person, they can go get, 1,000 people who are from their community, from their customer base, and they can then get $100 is the minimum investment, up to $2,500. So an investor can put sort of a nominal amount, $100, into that business. Now they have 1,000. So we call it an IPO. If you're familiar with IPO, like going public, it's IPO, initial backers offering, right? So instead of going public, again, this is my joke, we say you're going backers. But anyways, it's the idea is that you're able to collect using sort of the marketing and sales that you're already doing for your product. Now you're able to get investors and not have to rely on, like you said, government programs or other programs. Now the everyday individual and the public around you, your customers, clients, users, the community you're in, all of this can now invest in that business. And now if you're successful, they're going to be successful, and they can trade that security on a secondary market, just like the TSX, right? So, it gains in value. So that's kind of what we do. And that's, it's, I think I'd love to discuss, some opportunities with you.
I'm working, my goals, I'm a believer in the process. So what I'd like to, see if I can secure some funding to keep things going, because I've got a couple ideas. And one of my balloon ideas would be in a position where I can build a residence or long-term facility.
And put
it a smart residence and under the Rock Senior Living banner, right? The Chartwells, the Siennas, what have you done? You've taken, literally on their boards, they have an investment officer, right? To pull in investment and blah. And you look at some of these facilities, they have some municipal funding, but a lot of it is private funding, of course, the residents, right? And you have a range. In the long-term care, it's government set because it's, it's basically a subsidy.
Right.
But in the retirement side, it's anywhere from, it could be $3,000 to $10,000.
Though some of those ones at like Bayview and Shepherd there, Bayview and Lawrence, they're 12, some of the, the Chartwells there.
These are palatial estates, some of them. Beautiful gardens, and they have shopping malls in there. They've got theaters and things like that. So I would love to be in that space.
So that's part of what, I started Backers. Let's work towards it, because I think if you have the idea, and that's the whole thing with Backers, I had a crazy idea to start a pro hockey league. When I was trying to start, it was called the 3HL. We actually got it off the ground. It was a 3-on-3 professional hockey league. So it took the exciting overtime, fast-paced 3-on-3. We played that all the time. So we had NHL players playing 3-on-3, and sort of a step down from the NHL. So it was sort of like a minor pro hockey league was the concept. But I was trying to fund the teams, and came across. I say this a lot, but the Green Bay Packers, community owned. There's 362,000 shareholders, right? And so I was like, that's a great model. So in 2014, I started looking into that. It didn't exist in Canada. But in 2016, the OSC So the Ontario Securities Commission launched the 45-108 crowdfunding exemption. So
I wasn't aware of that. I haven't had to pick up on that.
Yeah. So basically, prior to that, a private company could only have 50 shareholders was the max.
Yes.
Now you can have an unlimited number of shareholders, raise up to 1.5 million under that exemption. There's also now other exemptions that you can raise, $1 billion if you needed to. And so that's kind of, I've been working on that for 4 years to kind of build this up. So it's that's kind of the trajectory it was initially for my own purposes. Looked for it. It didn't really exist there. Like there was no platform to facilitate it, even though the rules were there. There was nothing to really allow it to happen. So I thought, you know what, let's build that, and that's kind of where we're at. So
for me, it's fun. I mean, to get things off the ground, like I'm bootstrapping, as they say.
Well, that's what a lot of people are forced to do, right?
And you're like, okay, I just need it's like I don't want to say a loan, because you say, well, I'll pay it back at good terms, grant, but basically you are looking for not even equity, but you're just looking for a bit of money that you can go to, right? One, to keep the lights on, right? But to also, if I needed to get a partner in play, right? Right now, most of my partners, they're major companies. I don't have to pay them to come on board. Right now, I only need to manage the business to the point where I'm generating revenues. I have like almost $1 million worth of quotes out there, right? That was pre-COVID. Now that, I'm just chomping at the bit to get in front of these executives because, one, I know they have a problem. And I think I have the solution. And like when I talked to the thermal facial scanner guys, right, they were like, well, no one's called us yet. I'm like, they'll be calling, but I want to be.
Well, my kids went to a summer camp and they facial scanned them.
They did the hand, right?
The hand one, right? Yeah.
But then you need a body there. This is a complete mounted. You just put face and mask. It checks your temperature. And it opens the door. If you don't pass, it doesn't open the door.
But I was pretty surprised at a summer camp, like in Uxbridge, where every morning, like handheld, like to the little 4-year-old, the kid's like, what are you doing, right?
There's another product, one for the home. Before the kids go out the door, check the temperature. Right? It's gonna, and Glovely is what he's doing PPE, the 16-year-old kid, right? So for me, I like to show something. I mean, my ideas here. I've done everything. I plan on incorporating when it gets to $1 million worth of revenue. I had a previous company. Like I'm not a serial entrepreneur, but I've run a couple of companies. I think it's like my 8th attempt at my own company. I've sold one. I closed a couple because of competition in the marketplace. So I've incorporated. I've done from an entrepreneur piece. I've done it all, right? And I do sales and I do marketing, right? Marketing, sales. I've done advertising on magazine, print. The only thing I haven't done is, in fact, I've done radio as well. The only thing I haven't done is online. I was going to say I haven't done any print, but I have done it all because I ran Vander's Market. I did all of that. I even had banners on the Gardner for my expo and stuff like that. So done that all. I booked the NTC, vendors, all that stuff. Done it all myself, right? So when I ran that, I learned about connections, networking, who to talk to, right? I still have my card file of companies that can.
Your Rolodex?
Rolodex of everybody. So the key for me is Rock Ltc. To me is a little bit of labor of love as well. Because what I'd like to be in a position where I can direct people to facilities that I know have been checked off. All the bosses have checked off. They've got good disaster management strategy. They've got good people, but they really look to take care of their people. And I want to be able to look at friends and say, you need to go check out
this place,
Rocco, right? And where you go. Because I've been in some of them, and it's kind of sad. I've been in a few of them. I mean, we were in that space, and you go into some of those homes, and you're just like, I've gone with some other contractors, and we come out and we're like this. I feel sort of icky, like. And we come outside, and we're standing outside, and the guy goes, "Whatever you do, stay mobile." Exactly. And we have that same. We're walking through, and we're like, wow. is not how I want to end up. Okay,
Cool.
I'd rather be on a beach in a shack with a Corona in hand, taking my days out.
Exactly. I got one right here. I think. See it right up there. Giant Corona there.
There you go. I see it. So I tell my girlfriend, I says, hey, my buddies and I said, whatever we do, we're gonna end up on an island, falling off a cliff. We're not going down that road.
No. Yeah.
But all serious aside, there's an opportunity to promote technology into this space. The government's going to spend, and not just as Canadian government, the local government. We already heard what the Ontario government is talking about, 1.5 billion or something for a capital fund that the homes could, at least the builders could access.
Right.
And that's the other thing, getting in front of the builders to talk about community. Now,
prior to build, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pre-built. So there's opportunity there, and the goal is to carve off, a piece of that pie, so to speak.
Yeah.
And really, I'd like, in God spare my life and our lives, that in 5 years we are a leading technology consultant company in this space.
Yeah.
Right? Not only in Ontario, potentially across Canada.
Globally.
And I'd like to eventually have 8 offices, each in the major provinces.
Right.
That we can do local support in those communities.
I'm not going to ask you which provinces you think are major, because I think we'd both get in trouble, because there's more than 8 provinces, just for the record. I know. That's why we're not going to name them. You're part of it. All 8 of you.
That's right.
That's cool. No.
But
I like the sound of it though. So, definitely growth, expansion, there's opportunity there, right? You see the opportunity.
I'd like to be an employer. I'd like to have some quality people working with me, not for me. And I'd like to be able to pass on, some of that learned knowledge. I mean, when I had another company called acenterprise.com. It was an online magazine back in 2003. And that's when I did the vendors market. And we used to do financial services. I'd book a Holiday Inn.
Right.
I booked 3 or 4 of them across Ontario, Toronto, Greater Toronto area. And we'd bring in real estate, agents and, people doing taxes and whatever to educate. And I didn't exactly answer your question, I think, in terms of the anti-racism. And yes, I think the next generation, millennial, Gen Y, or whatever they call them, Gen I, will make an absolute difference, because they're not going to tolerate, because each generation says, okay, you tolerated that, I'm not going to take that, right? Our generation and our mom and dad or my kids, you can see in their conversation. And I pray that the color line will be blurred and eradicated.
Agreed.
Here's the thing. I have an Italian girlfriend, right? My kids are biracial. My ex-wife was from, Scottish background, raised in Quebec, right? We like to talk about diversity and multiculturalism, but the question is when it comes home, right?
Yeah.
My daughter is dating a Jewish person right now. Maury's a great guy. The family. I don't look at Maury and go, she's dating I know he's Jewish, but I don't go, she's dating a Jewish guy. I want that guy has the same respect, if not more, for my daughter.
Yeah.
And I do, right? Same with my son. I'm not going to say, well, you need to date that kind of woman, or that kind of religion or whatever. If that's a choice that they need to make for themselves, but they should be able to make that choice,
100%.
Not be limited on that choice. So anti-racism to me is that if I have a choice of what it is I want to do in the world, nothing is stopping me from that choice, and it shouldn't be my color.
The opportunity is equal across the board. And I like what you talked about earlier about the equity. I think, if there's people, there's more equity, not so much. So the equality and equity were two. I think you were differentiating the two. Yeah. Equity as in the ownership, right? The actual, like having ownership and a say, dictating the sort of the future of those 4 different components that you outlined.
Right.
Yeah.
If you want to do the 3HL, did somebody looking at you say, well, it's a black guy trying to do that, or is it a white guy trying to do that? It should
they didn't.
This a good idea.
Yeah.
And should we get behind it? Is it going to make money? Is it going to be profitable?
Yeah.
End the story, right?
Yeah. And that's exactly.
right? It should be just that clear. And then there's no racism in there. If somebody comes to me with a great idea, I'm not going to say, well, this freaking guy, he's a Muslim guy. And you call it like that.
Whatever.
I have all range of friends.
Yes.
Right?
Likewise. I mean, you mentioned multicultural. My wife's Chinese.
Yes.
So my kids are half Chinese, right? So, I mean, that's, I don't know if it's as diverse, but it is what it is, right? It's there, right?
You're diverse. You've got to learn some Chinese.
Yeah. Oh, I've lived in Korea for a year and a half.
I've got to learn some Italian. Don't really, it's
I'm not going to say any because I'd probably bastardize it and get in trouble
but you know what?
if she watches this afterwards. But
to me, I would love to learn Chinese. Yeah. Mandarin, Cantonese.
Cantonese,
In fact, I joke with my son. They do Spanish. My kids were in French immersion, both my son and daughter. It wasn't like, well, I said, no, this is 2 languages here. For what it's worth. Yeah. Learn both. I took a little French in high school. The thing I didn't do, I didn't continue it in college, and I didn't pick up Spanish, which would have been great because, I'm heading to Cuba or, or even Portuguese because my mom's Portuguese background. So in my own family, I have diversity. Yeah. Right? So for me, it's a non-starter for somebody to go, well, you are this way or
I find that too. I mean, but I think there is that, like, I agree. I think for someone like yourself and someone like myself, having grown up in a very, Scarborough, very, very multicultural, very much like, even I'm sort of I'm not millennial. I'm slightly older than millennial, but I'm basically the front. What's that?
Yeah, you're just like a Gen Y.
Yeah, I'm sort of whatever they call that middle one, that Gen XY or whatever. Anyways, a Zennial, I think they call it. But yeah, anyways, like, I think growing up in a very multicultural environment, for someone like myself, I mean, I can definitely see that there is sort of the racism there, but it's not necessarily, something I've grown up with or seen in my immediate surroundings, but I see it from friends of mine and things that they talk about and different things that they've experienced where, that, like you said, me trying to start a business, any business, whether it's the 3HL or any business, walking into a bank and being like immediately judged by male, female, color of your skin, whatever it is they're judging you on. Right. And to be initially like written off because of the color of your skin or any other reason is unfair. And I think that's one of the major things that need to be sort of changed. But
and that's where that's a change.
Yeah, what's that?
So I agree.
Generations are going to change, right? Like the younger. Go ahead.
I think so I'm with that wave. I'm like an old surfer, right? And my board's a bit beat up. And the young guy's coming along with his nice crafted wax board, but we're on the same ocean.
Still riding the same wave, right? Yeah. Right?
But I've been riding these waves, and he's just come along. He's like, "Hey, buddy, I got this nice new board now where I actually stand up, and it's got the special thing. The guy, it's got a special motor or whatever. I have to take. Have you seen those boards now where they have the?
Oh yeah. They can stand up, they can ride, and it sits out of the water, right? Yeah.
So I've got the old board. He's got the new board, right? He's like, I'm gonna take this wave a little bit differently, right?
Right.
So that's what we need in the young generation. Now, as far as Black Lives Matter, I think the movement's great. Don't lose the momentum, but understand what the objective is. So you've got, to me, stay with those systems. The education system, I just read where we have 3 ladies of color, Black ladies, who are now going to be board presidents, right?
For like the TDSB or
TDSB, or whatever have you. I read that on LinkedIn. Beautiful. Okay. Yeah. Now, when you make make your objectives clear, make sure everybody's aware, because people come with agendas, right? Yeah. And unfortunately, those people with agendas, if I put out an agenda and you put out one, and then we've got to figure out how much time we have to, it never works.
Yeah. Right? Everyone's trying to fight for their own cause and no one gets anything done, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So if you see what's happening in the US, well, everybody's joined in, right?
Yeah.
With Black Lives Matter, you've got the LGBTQ, you've got women's rights, the indigenous, all the, anybody who had problems with the government, check the above and meet me on the street. So we all have our agendas, but if social injustice is an agenda, we need to agree. If education is an agenda, we need to agree. If prison systems agenda, and
Right.
what are your goals for this? How, if you got 2.3 million people in prison, why, by when? There's already people working on that, right? You need to get with those people. If there's people working on the education and making sure that there's no, discrimination there, there's anti-anything there, get with those people, get that agenda, and then make sure you put people in power, right? Because you've got this thing called a vote. Yeah. Vote people in that can help with that agenda. Because my thing is that if you look at someone and you go, what's your agenda? And you can check off everything with them, vote that way. Yeah. Right? At the end of the day, we need to get to the lower levels where everybody's representative. We need LGBTQ on the board. We need indigenous on the board. We need a person of color on the board, right? A contractor on the board. Like, we need everybody represented so that they can put their 2 cents in, and then you come up with a consensus decision. I'm going to say this. I was thinking about this about an hour ago, and this is, I really appreciate your time. I know this has literally been one of the best conversations, the longest for sure. And it's been good. We've had a lot. I was going to throw this out to you. You can think about it. You don't have to answer right now, but we are putting together an advisory board, and I thought maybe if you'd be interested in joining our advisory board. Send me an advice. Send me an advice. Yeah, I think that'd be great. Interested in listening to other people's intelligence. What they say, surround yourself with people who know more than you. Yeah. And you'll be surprised what you can learn, right? Yeah, definitely. So I'd love to invite you to that. We'll definitely connect on that. We'll end it on this. It's been, like I said, a great talk. I'm really thankful for you joining me here. I think the sun has shifted on my face slightly. We've had such a good talk here. That's actually, I forgot to put the blinds over. You know, when you were fixing the lights, I forgot to put the blinds over. But so anyways. You look good. Yeah. It's like half. Anyways. I typically end it, with one sort of question. And all the people that are listening are going to be sitting there. There's a million different things they can probably pull apart from the conversation here, and things they can learn from. A lot of people that watch this are entrepreneurs, people starting businesses. So there's a lot of different nuggets that you've thrown out there. Mm-hmm. So you might have answered this, but I usually ask it to end the conversation because it's a good way to go out on. If there was one thing that you could tell a younger you, or maybe somebody starting out, say like a one word, that piece of advice that you would give to the younger you, Ricky, I'll call you Ricky, just Ricky Rock from 1976. A younger you starting out, what would that one word be, or what would that piece of advice be? Whether it's regarding entrepreneurship or life in general, or sales, whatever it is, what would that be? I'm going to leave it with a saying that I've been using most of my career. There's an old philosopher, at least it's attributed to this philosopher named Goethe. It says, boldness has genius. Begin it now. Paraphrase, it means just do it. Do it. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. It's just be bold. Like, just go do it. And that's what's going to, say it again. Boldness has genius. Boldness has genius, right? Yeah. Begin it now. If you look at my LinkedIn, it starts my LinkedIn, right? But boldness has genius. Begin it now. To me, it means just do it. Don't let the crowd noise, get rid of the mechanism, the naysayers, and even yourself. You're going to have moments when you just got to stay the course. Yeah. Quick story. In grade 12, when I told my colleagues in my class that I'd be in the Olympic Games the next year. Yeah. Okay. What do you think they told me? No chance. Yeah. What have you been smoking, Rick? Yeah, exactly. Well, guess what happened when I was 18 years old? Right. I was in the Olympic Games. Yeah. Right. So, and I tell young kids now, I said, if I could do it, why can't you? Yeah. What's stopping you? And you cannot let anybody tell you, if there's an adage, I think there's an adage that says, when you stop dreaming, you're dead. So keep dreaming, get out there, do it, be bold, and don't let anybody stop you.
Yeah, definitely. It's like you said, your LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is I am with a cross out and then possible. So it's basically nothing is impossible, or I am possible. You can read it in many different ways, but
Justin,
nothing's impossible.
In this world where we are, I tell my kids, you know what the first thing you should do in the morning? You basically cross yourself and you thank the Lord that you get to see another day. And the second thing you should say is, thank you, I'm in Canada.
Yeah.
Because you have
an opportunity that 90% of the world doesn't have, 95%.
So it's like the song says, if you can't make it here, right? There's nothing. So in Canada, there's nothing stopping you. Anti-racism aside and injustice, people have made it beyond that. It's not how you start, it's how you finish.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Own the dash.
Yeah. I use the other one. Kevin Garnett is sort of the inspiration of this one. Anything is possible. Right. When the Celtics won the first championship, my wife and I still say that. Anything is possible.
Yeah, it is, right?
Yeah.
And we're both living proof of that, because
exactly.
we put on a call and talk about our experiences of having to get to point A to Z, and working through the alphabet to get.
Yeah. Perfect.
There we are.
Awesome. Well, Richard, thank you, Rick. We'll call you it all now. I feel like we're family now. Let's continue the conversation. Like I said, I'd love to
hear more about the
backers and the advisory and stuff. But everyone watching, thank you for joining me on Powered by Backers. 2 hours. This has been the most exciting 2 hours you've ever watched in your entire life. Richard, thank you.
I hope somebody got something out of this, and if you didn't, hook me up on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's good. Where can they find you on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn?
I'm on Facebook.
Facebook, okay.
And just Richard Rock. Just look. Trust me, you can't miss me.
Okay.
You'll see. Just look for the Woburn Saluki stuff, and you'll find me.
There you go. I'm actually very close to Woburn. We live just by the Scarborough Town Center.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm literally like hop, skip, and a jump. Yeah, for sure.
But definitely link through LinkedIn. Just Richard Rock at Rock Ltc, and send me a message and a connection request. I'd be happy to talk to you and support and promote and all that good stuff.
Awesome, thank you, Richard. Again, guys, see you again tomorrow for Powered by Backers. This is Justin, Richard Rock, and 3, 2, 1.
OMG, baby, tell them.